Hey guys, it's Georgia. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If y'all are new here, welcome to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing another sewing project. I had a dream a couple weeks ago about walking into a store and finding a squishmallow that was shaped like Michael Scott from The Office, and they don't make one, so I decided to buy some fabric, use my sewing machine, and just create my own. And if you guys really like this, I may add it into my Etsy shop, which is linked down below. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so this is the official squishmallow that I'm using as sort of a base plan to get all the right seams to try and match its size, because aside from the ears and the tail, it has the most simple base that I could just follow. Just going to be starting by doodling out what my intended design is, drawing two squishmallows so I can make a front and back, and just going into it. I'm going based off of the Hallmark Itty Bitty design and the Funko Pop design for Michael Scott, just because those are already in somewhat a cartoon, two-dimensional type of view, rather than completely making a cartoon character from a live action figure, because I've never done that before. I'm not comfortable with that style, so it was easier to just alter an already cartoony figure to a different shape. Once those were done, I did copy the same exact design, just bigger, originally intending to use this as somewhat of a pattern to make sure I got the right sizes for everything, but I gave up on this idea, and I'm realizing I probably shouldn't have after getting the back done, since the back is just strips of fabric, going the same exact way with the front, but making sure I line everything up so that the suit jacket will end at the same spot, same with the pants, the shoes, the little neckline, all that. Adding in the details to the front, which is really the only difference, and I decided to color them in. So part of this was just for nostalgia, part of it was also so I could see how it looked and do any redesign I found necessary before I'd fully committed and gone in with making this with fabric, because I didn't want to go buy fabric for something that the colors wouldn't work out, something like that. After I finished coloring in the front side to what I wanted it to look like, and just labeling sort of the colors I used just so I knew what to buy, did the same thing with the back, making sure the colors for the suit line up, all that stuff, so it looks like one product. With those done, it's time to start cutting, and I'm going to be starting with the back since it's more simple. Just going to be doing a little strip for the shoes and a strip for that back of his hair, a little tiny strip for the back of his neck that's visible on the back side of the squishmallow, and cutting the suit outfit to width because this fabric was a lot longer than the rest, making the pants, shorts, whatever they may be, neckline, and the same thing with this light blue fabric, just cutting it out for the suit jacket. Once I have all my pieces, just lining them up to make sure they're about the right size, and they were. I should have lined it up on my design, but I didn't. I'm sewing these at first just two at a time, so I have just the colors together. So sewing the shoes to the bottom of the suit pants, and then sewing what will be the neckline of the suit jacket to the top of the suit jacket. This was just easier than doing proportions right away. And last but not least, sewing the neck to the bottom of the hairline. After this, I did go into the proportions because I just wanted the backside done. So sewing that part of the neck onto the top of the neckline of the suit. And lastly, sewing the shoes and pants part to the bottom of the suit jacket. So I finally had one finished piece. And with all those strips together and the back of the squishmallow done, I can start work on the structure and cutting for the front. So just like I did on the back, just cutting a nice black strip for the pants, or for the shoes, and I had scrap fabric I could use for the base of the pants, cutting a nice strip for the suit jacket, and for the neckline also had some scrap fabric. For the actual suit jacket, I'm going to be cutting and making like a 3D version of it rather than painting or embroidering it. So just doing what would be sort of the opening of the suit, making that little flared collar, I just sort of traced them over so they're the right size. With those done, making the little white part for what would be his undershirt if this was a real suit. I was originally going to be making him holding his World's Best Boss mug, but unfortunately it did not work with the proportions. Like I said, those got a little bit messed up during this video, but it was my first time and I'm still proud of it. But I did end up making the design for it. Using this purple to cut a tie. A lot of the pictures, characters, action figures portray him with his purple tie, so I just followed that, making one of those to go on with the suit. And again, this is part of the mug and arm that I don't end up using, just cut out a little bit of an arm and the hand so it had something holding it. Once those were done, cutting out a nice strip for the face and making his hairline so it doesn't look like just a plain strip of fabric. It looks a little more natural. And 2 eyes, since I didn't want to do embroidery. Once I had all the pieces done, sewn together, I am going to start with hand stitching that first part of the suit. So I'm just using some purple thread, and I think it's called a blanket stitch. It's one of the visible stitches to attach the tie to the suit underdress part, and doing the same thing but with a navy blue thread to attach the sides of the suit jacket to the undershirt. Once that is done, I'm going to go in and do the base work by sewing the pants to the shoes. Doing this, I just made sure that I got the front of the suit where I wanted. After this, I realized I needed to use some form of proportion, so I'm just matching it up to what I did on the front with the front of the suit and the neckline. Also did this, well, didn't really need to do this with the head since there was not very big part of his skin visible on the back. But once I had the base of the front done, I could finally add on all those little details. So using that same stitch I did to connect that front part of the suit together, just connecting the suit to the actual front of the squishmallow. So I'm using that blanket stitch all the way around with the navy blue thread to connect the flaps of the suit. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what those called. I think they're called lapels, but I could be completely wrong. But just making sure to connect that to the front of the squishmallow so there's no flaps. Doing the same thing with purple thread with that little bit of the tie that's visible and connects right to the base of his neck. And finally finishing this part off by doing both sides of the white part. Once this part was done, I did go in and decided to start with the hairline because it was going to be just the simplest part to do. After lining it up, making sure I had it correct, I just went in, again, same exact stitch, putting the black onto the black. The hairline part was not fundamental to the structure, since I know I could have easily cut fabric that way, but it was just easier to use one big strip since I didn't have a pattern to go off of. Once those parts were done, just doing a couple stitches around both of the eyes to get those in place, and making sure that those don't move, nothing like that, because I didn't want to use glue, and cutting both pieces to length. I know it seems like this is random, but originally, like I said, I was going to include his hand holding a mug, and I thought it would be easiest if I included that once he was the right size, but it kind of is random when I decided to give up on that. After those were done though, I did go through with just a nice whip stitch and some thick embroidery floss to make eyebrows, and while it's not super clear on the camera, I did the same thing with the mouth. I had it facing me because I wanted to make sure it was centered and as even as possible so it looked like a smile and not like anything askew. Now that he's done, I can finally put him together fully. So this is where I realized I messed up with a lot of the proportion. I should have cut off the pants and the shoes, but I just cut off the shoes. It's still way too tall, making sure I did that on both sides. And now cutting all those little slits I saw in the original squishmallow that are used for the structure. With those done, putting them on top of each other so I could get a nice even marshmallow circle type of pattern on the top, making sure that it was even from front and back so it could easily sew together. Using the sewing machine again, just sewing all of those little lines on the bottom. While they may look random, they actually help to curve the fabric so it keeps that 3D look rather than being just a shaped pillow. After I finished making both sides 3D, I'm just going in with a couple sewing pins on one half of it, getting those all together and sewing him together so I make one piece of fabric. I pull the needles out as I go just because it's easier for me to do that than go back through after, but just making sure that this needle went over every single seam, all that, so there are no holes. Once that side was done, using the same needles and just pinning together the second side and sewing the second side together so I have a circle sort of character. I did sew together that little strip on the top. This is the last part that makes it sort of like a dome rather than just a flat pillow. And with that done, I did not film this part on camera, but I did cut a scrap piece of black fabric and pinned it onto the bottom so I had a base rather than just cinching it. This part was, like I said, just so it had a base. All the squishmallows have it, and I just made sure I left about an inch opening so I could very easily pull the inside through so that the right sides were out. Once it was pulled through, I still kept that opening there because I needed to stuff it. When I was putting all the stuffing in is when I was realizing I messed up the proportions big time. This squishmallow, while I do adore it because it's the first one I've made myself, so it's going to be special, it is very, very long compared to its width. And when I go to redo this, because I'm making another one for me and one for a friend, I'm going to make sure I work on that proportion. Now he looks all nice and done. He's nice and stuffed, just using a quick whip stitch, hand stitching it so that there's no more holes. With that, he looks ready and is ready to go. So like I said, the proportions are way off. This is way too tall and thin to be a squishmallow, but I think the idea is still there. I am going to go through and redo this, like I said, one for me and one for one of my friends, and make it just the head and the torso, because I feel like that would look better and it's going to be easier to proportionate. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I have quite a few squishmallows and I'm very happy to add my own custom one into my collection. But yeah, let me know if you guys did like this by liking, subscribing, and commenting if you want to see me make more characters into squishmallows. All my social media links are down below, as well as links to my Etsy and Mercari if you want to buy something that may have been in a video or maybe in a future video. But yeah, I really hope you guys liked this one because I know I did. And let me know if you want to see my second attempt at creating a squishmallow now that I've learned my mistakes. But alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.